Dave Parody here with another slide makeover video. In today's video, we're going to take a look at large numbers. This is a problem for a lot of presenters because when you have a very large number, it's hard to make that number easy to understand for your audience. So in today's makeover, we're going to take a very large number and we're going to use an analogy to make it easier for the audience to understand. And then I'll give you 4 steps so that you can create analogies for your own presentations. Let's take a look at the slide.
This slide comes from a nonprofit organization I was working for, and one of the things that they do is they transport or drive their clients to various appointments for various reasons. And so this is one of the slides they were using to talk to their board of directors and senior people about this particular aspect of their services. And the one figure I want to focus on in this particular slide is this one right here, where in the year they did 68,647 drives. Now that's a large number, and it's something that a lot of audiences wouldn't be able to relate to because we really don't count how many times we drive in a particular day, week, or month. So we don't really know how big that is. We know it's a big number, but it's hard for us to conceive of it. So what I did is I translated that into something that was easier to understand. Here's how I redid the slide. You know, when we take a look at our transportation service, all the drives that we did total over 1 million kilometers a year. Now, that's a very large number. How do we, make that make sense? Well, if you take a look at driving across Canada from one side of the country to the other, we drive across the country over 131 times in the year, which means, every 2 to 3 days would be a cross-country trip. We can't even drive the whole country in that time. So it gives you an idea of how much our drivers do for our clients every single year. So you see what I did with this slide is that I translated a large number into something that was easier to understand. Driving across the country, we all go, wow, that's a long drive. That's really big. And then said, well, we do it 131 times each year. Wow, that's a lot of trips. That's a lot of driving. And now we have a sense of exactly how big that number is. So what are some of the lessons that we can learn from this particular makeover? Well, before we get to the lessons, a reminder, all the details of creating persuasive visuals are in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution, which is at www.visualsliderevolution.com. For a lot more information on my training, consulting, other videos, and books, go to my main website, ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. So let's take out our lessons on using analogy to make a large number make sense for your audience. So step number 1, I'm going to give you 4 steps here. Step number 1 is to find out what is core to the actual number. So the action, in this case, it's driving. And so whenever we think of driving, what the core really is distance. How far did we drive? And so that's the core of the number that we're trying to get the audience to understand. Step 2, find a statistic about that core action that the audience can really relate to, something that they're going to go, oh, that's big. And in this case, what I did is I researched what's the distance to drive across Canada and however many thousand kilometers that was. I got that number, I did the research. So now I've got something that the audience is going to go, okay, I can relate to that. That's long, that's big. Now, step 3, calculate the multiple. So simply take the action that we're measuring, divide it by that statistic to get how many times you do that statistic. So what I did is I took the distance driven by all of the drivers, divided it by the distance to drive across Canada to get that multiple of 131. Now that we've got the multiple, final step, step 4, is to show that multiple visually. Don't just put it up as a number on the screen. But what I did in this case is I did an image plus the number, so they realize, wow, that's driving across the country. That's the image and the number going across. Or it might be a proportion diagram if that's the type of thing that you're showing. But some way to visually understand what that number is. So again, what I did here is I used the map of Canada and I had the arrows, the 2-headed arrow, going across how many times. So when you have a large number that you need to communicate to your audience, and just the number alone will be difficult for them to understand the magnitude of it, use an analogy. Take these 4 steps that I've just given you, create an analogy that makes it easier for them to understand, and they'll have that aha moment to get why that number is so significant to them. This has been Dave Parody with another Slide Makeover video.